Welcome to Plant Your Seed. I'm your host, Fred Ferris. On each episode, we share stories of how ordinary people have transformed their lives. Each story is compassionate, each story is authentic, and each story is a transformation. Here are the stories of the people who are changing our world by transitioning to a plant-based diet. Today on Plant Your Seed, joining us from England, we have Ray Starr. Ray is an award-winning author of young adult fantasy and climate fiction. As an author of climate fiction, Ray's books are published on recycled paper, and she plants one tree for every book sale. Welcome, Ray.
Thank you. It's lovely to be here. Thank you for having me, Fred.
Thanks for being on Plant Your Seed. Let's start with your books. How and when did you start writing, and what inspired you to start writing your books?
Oh, fantastic question. So my vegan journey began in 2018. I did Veganuary as a lot of people do Veganuary. I really enjoyed it and all the different foods and things that I was eating. But then this whole new world was kind of opened up to me that I naively just wasn't aware of. I knew when I was eating meat that it was an animal, fully aware of that. But I had no comprehension of what that animal went through to end up on my plate. It eats at my soul every day. It really, really does. And as much as I loved going vegan and it's a fantastic thing to do, for me it just wasn't enough. I wanted to do more. I tried like an online blog at first and like various forms of activism, and it just wasn't really working. I wasn't really getting the hits and the numbers back, and I thought, what could I do to kind of really raise awareness for this, but in a way that people are open and receptive to learning about it. And that was when the idea to write the Earthlings Trilogy kind of came from. Earthlings is the story of a young girl named Peridot, or Peridot, people say it differently, and unbeknown to her, she's magic born. So she's got all these amazing gifts kind of cooped up inside of her that she doesn't know about, and it's the journey of her discovering her gifts and discovering a world that is unlike anything she fathomed possible, because in the Earthlings world, humans are no longer in charge, another species is, and it kind of reverses all the roles that we know and or don't know about in modern day society, and kind of shines a light on some of the things that we do in the Earthlings world is done to humans instead. And that was my kind of idea of raising an awareness for veganism, but in a way where people could learn what's happening to animals, but in their footsteps. Just imagine for a moment what life would be like to be a chicken,
Right.
to be a cow, to be a horse, any animal. It doesn't even bear thinking about. It really, really doesn't. It was developing the story from there, so trying to shine a light on as many different things that humans do in modern day society that aren't so nice to other creatures, but in a way where it's not morbid, it's not depressing. I hope it's not depressing, and in a kind of almost exciting, enlightening way where people get caught up in the magic of the story and what's Peridot going to do with these powers? Is she going to save the world, or is she going to destroy it? She's a very powerful being, and just kind of lots thrown into the mix. I don't want to give too many spoilers away, but that is the Earthlings tale. It took me a year to write book one. I was pregnant with my firstborn, and I now have two little ones, aged 3 and 1, and it's taken me nearly 3 years to write book two. Writing with children is a completely different kettle of fish. But yeah, and that's where we're at now. Book 2 comes out in June, I believe, and it's called Dominion.
What was the inspiration, though, for starting to write your trilogy?
I just want to save animals, and I'm not a rich person. I've got no ties in politics. I'm just a normal, everyday, average girl. What could I do to save animals? If I see a worm struggling on the concrete, I pick it up and I put it in the grass. But, can I help save thousands or millions of animals? I don't know. Obviously, I'm vegan, which does make an impact, but not enough of an impact that I wanted to make. I want to kind of open people's eyes up to veganism and hopefully prompt themselves to go vegan, but in a way that's prompting them to do it, not forcing it on them, and I just thought the Earthling story was a really good way to hopefully, try and initiate that. The premise is to hopefully readers will read and enjoy it, and afterwards, not maybe want to do these bad things to animals anymore, and just look at the world in a different light, as I have done since I began my vegan journey. So that was the kind of inspiration and plan behind the book, and hopefully it's working.
Now, why is it a trilogy?
I couldn't fit it all into one book. I wish I could. I wish I could. The book would be longer than Lord of the Rings. It would be 1,000,000 pages long. That's another really hard part of writing, is condensing it down, because obviously it's all these different things we do in the world that I want to include, but I can't, because it is a magical story. It does need to be exciting. It does need to be parts that are humorous, parts that are sad. It needs to be the whole kind of spectrum of emotions, but it's got to stick to the story and have a purpose and get to where it's going, and the kind of end to where it is going at the end of the trilogy. The last book in the series will be called A Land of Hope and Glory. At the end of the trilogy, there is a kind of idea of a way that things could be done differently, where our world would be a better place again. There had to be a purpose to the trilogy. It couldn't just be highlighting all the bad things we do. There needs to be some kind of solution. I don't have the solution, but I have an idea of a solution, and hopefully it will resonate with readers and make a difference. Just want to make a difference. Can only try, can't we?
I noticed that the books in your trilogy have the same names as vegan documentaries. Is that on purpose?
They do, yes. It is indeed. So the name for book one, Earthlings, just came to me instantly, because it was the first documentary that I watched. I don't know if you've seen it. It took me over 20 attempts to watch that documentary. I mean, it is just, God, that is a hard one to watch. There's no way someone could stumble across that documentary, watch it, and not want to help animals afterwards. So my idea was, if I name all the books after certain animal rights documentaries, firstly, it substantiates some of the things that are done to humans within the Earthlings world in the books that I've written, and secondly, it would hopefully bring these documentaries that non-vegans probably don't know about or wouldn't stumble across, up on their feed. If they search my book, the documentary will come up too. They might think, oh, Joaquin Phoenix is in there. I wonder what that is. Press play, and then, they might have the life-changing moment that I had and go on their own kind of journey of discovery, So, because going vegan was the best thing I've ever done, other than having my children and writing this book. Going vegan is singly the best thing I've done in my life. I'd recommend it to anyone. So, who wouldn't want to share that with people?
Exactly. How do you write? I mean, do you have an outline? Do you let the story just take you? Do you have the whole thing already written out and it's just a matter of condensing it?
Yeah, do you know what? Everyone has a different kind of writing technique, and I'm going to be completely honest with you, Fred. I have no technique, none whatsoever. I just sit down with my cup of tea and a couple of biscuits, and it just kind of comes to me. I'm quite lucky in that respect. The hardest thing for me, writing-wise, now that I've got little ones, is making time to write. When I do write, it just flows. Like, I had 2 hours to myself last night, and I got 3 chapters out. But getting 2 hours now to write is an impossibility at the moment. It's just, my little ones are 3-on-1, so with the lack of sleep and the clinging to the legs and everything else that comes with it, finding the time to write, unfortunately, is quite difficult at the moment. When I do write, it just comes and I just kind of write it down. The only kind of system that I do have that I found worked well for me, if anyone else listening to this is writing, you might find it a kind of handy tip, is not to get too carried away and kind of go. So I'll do 1 or 2 chapters and then do a light edit and then move forward with the next. Because then when you go to edit the full book at the end, like the major points in each chapter that do need adjusting is already done. So your book edit at the end isn't such a daunting task, because editing the book is often just as hard as writing it. So that's the only kind of technique that I do try and stick to. So I don't waffle. I'm a waffler. It's an English thing. We waffle.
Now, Peridot is a stone that is the stone of compassion.
It is, yes.
It's believed to bring good health, restful sleep, and peace to relationships by balancing emotions and the mind.
Exactly that, yes.
It also has an uncanny ability to inspire eloquence and creativity. Where did you come up with the name Peridot? So
a little bit of not a sad story, but, background to the book itself. So unfortunately, before I went on my vegan journey, I lost my dad to pancreatic cancer in 2017. That was kind of the catalyst for all my lifestyle changes. I was on a bit of a spiritual path when I discovered veganism, because it was something I'd never even heard of. And before Dad passed, he had a Peridot ring that he would wear, and he asked me if I'd wear it when he was gone. And I do. It's on my finger now. I wear it every single day. And just, the name for the main character, Peridot, came before the story did. If I'd have had girls instead of boys for my children, one of them would have been called Peridot. It just really means something to me. You can hear my children in the background screaming right now. Not sure if you can hear that. That's my youngest. That's Lucian. Wondering where Mummy is. He could probably hear me and think, why isn't she with me? So Peridot really does mean something to me. And along with other things in the book, like some of the characters are after animal companions and things that I've actually got in my life as well. So the book is really, really personal to me. I tried to put as much empathy in there as I possibly could, and all the amazing traits that you just listed then of the stone are kind of the protagonist's traits herself. She is a really kind of inspiring, amazing, compassionate person who is either blessed or cursed with the power to either kind of save the world or destroy it. So watch this space.
Now, can you take us back to that day that your dad passed? Because it changed everything in your life.
Yeah, it did. I mean, we were really lucky in the sense that he was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer nearly a year before. Now, I didn't know at the time. The doctors actually told him, that it was terminal and that he was going to die. I didn't know this. I didn't know anything about pancreatic cancer. I just had it in my head that, he was just going to get better. I didn't know that Dad was going to die.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to cry. So the doctors told him that he had 3 months to live, but for him to get the best quality of life in his end days and the chance to prolong his time, the one thing 3 separate doctors advised him was to immediately cut out red meat, eggs and dairy. But unfortunately, they're kind of focused on the things that he shouldn't be eating rather than the things that he should. They didn't mention the term plant-based or vegan to him. I mean, obviously, this is going back to 2017, so it wasn't as mainstream then as it is now. But had they have, I cooked a lot of his meals for him. I would have looked into it and known to, make him a chickpea curry and add a load of greens in there and some flaxseed and some stuff that would really help him, give him energy and make him feel great. We just took on the things that he shouldn't be eating, and then for his last however many months that he had a lot of fish, had a lot of chicken, because they said red meat, they didn't specifically say animal products in general. So he didn't get to have the kind of vegan experience where you eat the healthy foods and it makes you feel better. I mean, it wouldn't have saved him. Dad was going to die anyway. He was too far gone, which is just kills me every day, because obviously if many years back I'd have discovered veganism, he might have, done it with me and then maybe not have got cancer, So to anyone out there, listening to this, if you've got friends and family that are poorly, my dad's thing actually started off with, I don't know if you call it the same thing over in America, but it's called gallstones. He just had a lot of tummy problems in general. If anyone love or care about has that, just try and initiate the conversation with them of that we are what we eat, and if they fill their body with fruits, veg and pulses, they will start feeling better. That lasted 10 months instead of 3, so cutting out those things did make a big difference, but not including all the really nutritious things that you just kind of use every day in as part of the vegan lifestyle. He didn't get the perks of that, unfortunately. I mean, when he passed, he was a skeleton compared to the man he was. He was quite not overly, not obese, but I mean, he was like he was a large man. And he was skinnier than me when he went. I've got a picture on the day of when he went, and it just took everything from him. It took everything from us. We miss him every day. I'm very lucky now that I've got a very amazing life. I've got an amazing family. I've got a dream career. I never dreamed I'd be an author. I'm trying to make a difference in the world. And the one thing I say whenever I have my little chats with the moon and various deities and things that I believe in, I always say, my life is great other than, Dad isn't here anymore. So it's one of those things. Anyone that's experienced loss will know what it feels like. It just changes everything. Changes everything.
So what exactly changed in your life when your dad passed?
That's a very good question. I think I just kind of realised that I took life for granted. I was a business owner, so was my dad, and I owned a PR agency and a photography studio. And sorry, that's my son. He's really crying. He can hear me and not get to me. He's with Daddy, so sorry about that. And I was very work orientated, very, very work orientated. I've always been kind of healthy, but not healthy in a work sense. The kind of work always came first. I didn't have kids back then. But I put work in front of everything. And before Dad passed, we had a lot of kind of deep conversations where he said to me, you need to find another way to make money or to learn to live with less because, you can't take it with you. And he's right. The last few months I spent with my dad before he went was, eBaying all of his prized possessions so that he could give the money from the sales to my mum, because he was worried about mum when he left and stuff, So
Sure.
that really resonated with me. And I took a huge step back from work, much to many clients' anger and dismay. I was a very bad PR agent after my dad passed. But it was the best thing for me, I only recently closed my shop. My shop only went about a year ago, and it was the best thing that I ever did. But taking a step back from work and being able to focus on myself, like I say, I went on a bit of a spiritual journey, just journaling, writing down the things I didn't like about myself and I didn't like about my life, and then writing down the things I do like about myself and that I do like about my life, and working what I could change to make my life better, because Dad had a lot of regrets when he went, and I was only 30 at the time, and, and I didn't want to be living with regrets. I wanted to kind of learn from the lessons that he taught me in his end days, and I really did. My life is everything now that it wasn't before. So thank you, Dad. Every little snippet of advice you gave me, I did listen to. So, yeah, as sad and awful as this sounds, like I'd do anything to have him back, but him passing made me do what I needed to do to be happy, because I wasn't happy before and now I am, and I kind of owe that all to him, really. Always listen to your parents.
Yeah.
They're always right. You don't want to admit it, but they're always right. And now I'm a parent, so I'm always right. Mwahaha.
Now, you mentioned regrets that your dad had. What were some of those? Could you give me an example?
Yeah, sure. Working too much. He was work obsessed. He worked in London, but we don't live in London. So the commute for him to get to work, he was an electrician, but he was like a site manager. So he was highly paid. And just, again, I think a lot of humans have this thing where, like, if you make a lot of money, you don't actually spend it on the things you enjoy. You just kind of keep it sitting there. I don't know what for like a rainy day, or that's just something we say over here, or what it is. But, what's the point of having a life if you don't live it, And he was working, he wasn't living. And he had a place over in Spain that probably only went to like once every 2 years, he would have loved to have gone over there 5 times a year. He could afford to go over there 5 times a year. He just didn't, And ironically, because of COVID and all the rest of it, now you can't. So, it's just, so if there's stuff you want to do with your life, just, you never know when your life is going to end. Dad did not know he was going to get cancer. He thought he was going to live to 80. That's what was the saddest thing is, like, when he died, he was like 2 years away from retirement age. And in his head, he had it that, like, I'm saving all this money for my retirement. When I stop work, I'm going to travel, I'm going to do this, I'm going to go to France, I'm going to go to that boating lake, I'm going to do this, that, and that. He never got to do any of it. So don't save for the rainy day. Just, if you've got stuff you want to do in your life and it doesn't harm anyone, just go out and do it. Just live. Point of having a life if we don't live it,
Now, how has that impacted your life?
Oh God, yeah, hugely. Before COVID, I have to say, one of the things that was on my list to do was to travel more. Unfortunately, we're restricted now and we can't. But that might actually be a bit of a message, though, in some respects. I've gone really quite climate aware. So along with going vegan, everything I buy is secondhand. I try to avoid plastic. I try to restrict myself to only use my car like 5 times a month if I can. As and when I can afford it, I'll be getting an electric car rather than diesel one, which I've got at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to be eco-friendly, and obviously flying is one of the worst contributors to climate change. So that might be for the best that I'm not flying here, there, and everywhere, because then I'd be a bit of a hypocrite with some of the things that I try to teach other people about. But yeah, I just want to kind of experience life and experiences. If I've got a deadline for something and something that I need to do, but my kids want to go to the park, I'm going to go to the park, because that's more important than, just putting your priorities in the order that they should be, rather than the order that, I don't know, your ego puts them in. Put ego right down to the bottom and just put your heart right up at the top. And it just helps you live a much happier life.
I think your dad would be very proud of you for all the changes that you've made.
Do I think he would be proud of me?
No, I think he would be. Very proud.
Thank you. Oh, don't you will. You'll make me cry. Don't. I'm not going to cry on this podcast. Thank you. I hope so. Something that bothers me always. Just, I didn't see him as often as I should have done. Like since he's passed, my mum comes around a lot, and she helps me with the kids so that I can attempt to get some writing done, or I can walk my dogs. I've got 2 dogs who are actually in Earthlings, Phoenix and Freya. So if anyone reads it, Phoenix and Freya, if you go on my Instagram, you can see the real life Phoenix and Freya. They are face lickers, they are mad, but they're very full on, like high maintenance dogs. So I can't walk them with my children. So my mum comes round, so I can walk the dogs and do all the other little things that I do. And it eats at me every day that I see my mum now 3 or 4 times a week, and I didn't see my dad 3 or 4 times a week. They were together. I just didn't see my parents that often before all of this happened. But they lived about an hour away from me. But again, what's an hour drive? It's nothing.
Right.
That's some of my regrets. If you've got people you love in your life, go and spend time with them. I wish I did.
Yeah, it's people at the end of the day at the end of their time, don't sit there and say, oh, I wish I had bought more things. They say, I wish I had spent more time.
Yeah. And time is something we all take for granted, and the one thing we have no control over whatsoever. It is a force of nature. And, nature is something else we have no control over. We have an impact on, certainly. My fences blew away 2 days ago from Storm Eunice. So we're seeing the impacts of how we impact nature at the moment, good old climate change. But it's something we certainly can't control. And time and nature are both up there in that respect. They're 2 things we really need to value and respect. Because our lack of respect for those things is only going to hurt us in the long run, unfortunately. Because of everything that's happening with climate change, one of the things that a lot of people don't seem to grasp is that the world will still be here. We always say to save the planet. It's not to save the planet. The planet will adapt. The planet will survive humans. Humans won't survive climate change. It's going to kill us. It's going to kill the elephants. It's going to kill the tigers, the dogs, the cats, the birds, the bees. But nature, the foundation will still be here. Just something else will crawl out of the sea once we're all washed away, Mm-hmm. So we really do need to prioritise the way that we treat and neglect nature, because it's us that's going to suffer from it.
Now, what were you doing when you heard the news of your dad's passing?
Oh, I was sitting with him, my brother and I. So the care home, when he reached like his kind of end of days sort of thing, like they pulled us aside and said, he's probably going to go this week. And my dad did not want to die in a hospital. That was his biggest fear. He did not want to die in a hospital. So he was put into a local care home. It was fantastic, absolutely amazing. It was the best place he could have ended up. They were fantastic. But he didn't die that week. He actually died like 10 weeks later. And every time me and my brother, I've got an older brother, left to go home, we didn't want to leave. So we thought, what if he passes when we're gone? So we pretty much moved into this care home and slept on their sofas for weeks on end. Because we just, we wanted to be there when it happened. And he held on. My God, did he hold on? He had bed sores. He was genuinely a skeleton when he passed. His skin was stuck to his bones. But I think he could sense that we were there with him. I think he knew, and he just wanted to be there. Sorry. I'm back. Sorry. I think he just wanted to be in the room with us. I just don't think he wanted to go. Mm-hmm. So, deep breath in, deep breath out. So yeah, it was the nicest way, even though obviously no one wants to die of cancer, but to die in a room with your immediate family around you, holding your hand. He wouldn't have wanted to go any other way. He held on for every extra day that he could, as stubborn as the day is long. I get that from him. I am as well, and I'm a Taurus, so whoa, I'm stubborn. But yeah, he held on for as long as he could, and yeah, we were all there with him. I remember, I think it was about nearly 7 a.m. We were all kind of waking up. And I remember Mum just kind of jumping up and saying, I think he's gone. Because if you've ever been with someone when they die, the body takes like a last kind of rasp, and it's like a croaky sound. It's quite vocal, it's quite loud, and she heard that and she knew, because she'd lost her dad quite recently as well. And then yeah, we were all just kind of there with him. I lit a white candle and opened the window so hopefully his spirit could get to wherever it needs to go. I'm hoping he's in a nice tree somewhere. And yeah, my kind of new life began after that. Yeah,
it's nice that you got to cherish the days.
Yeah, we really did. We really did. I mean, he was on a lot of medication in the end. He opted to try chemotherapy to see if it worked, which was quite not frustrating, but I mean, the doctors knew that he was going to die. They knew he wasn't going to live through this. So he shouldn't really have been given the opportunity to have chemotherapy, because it made him so much worse. I mean, when people that are close with me ask me, what did your dad die of? My dad didn't actually die of cancer. My dad died from chemo. He couldn't eat. He got a different kind of infection in his body. He got sepsis. And all this stuff was because, the chemo just took away whatever immune system he had left. It was after his last bout of chemo that the doctors came in and said, he's only going to last a week. And before he'd had that, he was actually perking up a bit. Again, he wouldn't have survived. He wasn't going to live. My dad wasn't going to get another 3, 5, 10 years. Mm-hmm. But he might have made it 2, and he might have left not as a skeleton and not in the pain that he was in, So I wish he hadn't had chemo. I think his death would have been a lot less painful for him if he hadn't. But, when you're given the opportunity as something that might work, I completely understand why he took it. But having seen him go through that now, I wouldn't myself. It's made me quite the total opposite. I won't even take paracetamol now if I need it. I'm just so wary of medication now, and I've seen what it can do to someone. So yeah, the fruit, veg, and pulses are now my medication, and they work wonders. Feel the best and look the best I've ever felt in my life, and I think that's all down to nature's goodness. So yes, I just wish my dad had got to experience a kind of vegan lifestyle before he left. I think it would have really helped him, but it is what it is.
Now, after your dad passed, that's when your vegan journey and your whole life changed.
Precisely.
When you think about that decision, what sticks out in your mind?
That it took that for me to do it, for me to discover it, that my life was so different to the life I live now, that had my dad not have passed, had I not have done the inner work to make the outer work shifts, I might never have discovered veganism. Well, I probably would have done now because it is so mainstream. Anywhere you go, there's a vegan option. But I could have been one of those people that rolled my eyes and, oh my God, what does it need to be vegan for? Which would have been such a hypocritical thing for me to do because obviously I love animals. Now that I know, again, a lot of the parts of Earthlings that was quite hard was the research side of it because I don't want things to happen to the humans in Earthlings that don't happen in real life. So I had to find out what really does happen to the animals in real life, and I could not for a moment, you could pay me £1 billion, I would not grab a chicken, hang it up by its legs, stun it unsuccessfully, then, sorry, being a bit graphic, but then slit its throat, let it go around on a conveyor belt, still conscious, probably still alive, and then dunk it in a vat of boiling hot water to start plucking all the feathers out of it. Because the skin has to be supple for the feathers to come out. The majority of those chickens are alive when that happens.
Right.
I would never do that to a creature. Not my God, I can't. Mind explosion. You couldn't even fathom it for a second. But I allowed someone else to do that to me on a grand scale. Every time I had a chicken nugget, a chicken wing, all the things that I used to have. So I hate that it kind of took this real saddening aspect of my life for me to kind of realize all these things that I was a major hypocrite about, So I wish I'd have discovered the things that I know now when I was 20 instead of when I was 30. I wish I'd been vegan for a lot longer than what I have been, but trying to do as much as I can now that I do know as physically possible, So like I said to you earlier, you can only try, can't you? It's all we can do, and often trying is enough. So going to keep trying.
Where did you get the courage to kind of step outside your comfort zone and quit your job?
Oh, yeah. It took me a lot of prompting, that did. And actually, again, I'm on a bit of a spiritual journey, so I'm a very big believer in the powers that be. Don't know what the powers that be are. I think it's something that we can't even fathom or imagine. Not masculine, not feminine. There's just something, just an energy, I assume. But I've been toying with the idea of closing my business for years. My business made me money. It bought my house. It pays the mortgage. I wasn't rich, but I was comfortable. I haven't been happy with it for years and years and years. Even before Dad died, it was one of the things why he spoke to me about it so often, because he knew I hated doing what I did. It was just something I did for money, and there's no way to live. If you're doing something just because it makes you money, stop doing it. Do what makes you happy, please. It's the best thing you will ever do with your life. And then, yes, good old Mother Nature, who I believe is trying to get some messages to me at the moment, or maybe it was climate change, I'm not sure. We had really torrential rain this time last year, funnily enough. No, I think it was March, April time. But anyway, we had really, really torrential rain. And my building that I had for my business, it was 3 floors high, and the bottom floor of it had like a bit that kind of juts out, and it was a flat roof section. All the torrential rain kind of just stayed on there for some reason, didn't wash away and festered, and the roof caved in. And it was the best thing that could have happened to me, because for me to keep the business open, I would have had to have fixed that roof, which I really didn't want to do. And with everything else that was going on, and I knew I didn't want to keep this business anyway, again, it was just a money-based thing, that I just took that as a sign from nature, just saying, look, just step away. It's not you anymore. Just leave it behind. And I did. It was the best thing I ever could have done. It was very scary. I don't earn now what I used to earn as a PR agent, far from it. But money, money, fortunately, isn't a priority for me anymore. I don't care. I'm not even writing the books to make money. I'm writing the books to hopefully save some animals and create some climate awareness. Money's just not a priority for me anymore. I do not care. As long as it's got a roof over my head and food in my cupboards, I'm rich. So, I just, closing my business was the best thing. One of the best things I could have done for my mental health and my lifestyle. And I'm very glad that I'm having this podcast with you now and not having to worry that, I've just missed five phone calls on one of my clients who's got a job tomorrow and I need to be there, and I have to get childcare, so I've got to be there with them. I mean, imagine that, missing the first 2 years of my children's lives because, I've got to look after my clients and things. Like, no. So glad I stepped away from it. So you say it took courage, but I think it just took belief belief that it wasn't what I was meant to do anymore, and it wasn't. So yes, thank you for flooding my shop. Skies above, I'm very pleased you demolished it. I'm glad I wasn't standing there when it happened. The whole thing literally on the floor. Yeah. If you walk past my shop in the town now, you can still hear like the beeping of the fire alarm still going beep, 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 because there's water in the electrics, which we've obviously switched off and everything, but it's just still beep, 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 beep. So, yeah. Yes, poor old shop is not a shop anymore.
Now, you mentioned that your dad told you that he knew that you hated your job. Mm-hmm. Can you give us an example of what he was talking about?
Oh, that's a good one. I think he just saw the hours that I worked, and my dad worked a lot of hours, and I was working more hours than him. So that's a lot. I mean, I'd get there at 9, and sometimes I wouldn't leave till like midnight. I think he just knew it wasn't making me happy, and it was quite stressful. It was a people-based business. So even if I did the very best job that I could do, part of the business was still down to that person turning up to the job on time, doing a good job, not ringing in the morning to say, "Oh, I'm running late," or I'm sick or whatever. And parts of my job were kind of out of my control, and the parts of the job that were out of my control often went wrong, and it really used to stress me out because it was something that I couldn't fix. I can't force someone to be at the job on time. I could have been a much stricter mentor than I was. It's just not how I am. It's just not my way, and I think Dad saw that people probably took advantage of that a little bit, but luckily, the clients were always happy in the end, killed them with kindness and lots of smiles and apologies. And it always worked out, but it wasn't the point. It shouldn't have been like that. So, it was a very stressful environment. And I think he could just see how that was affecting me. And that, as a woman coming up to my 30s, I was nowhere near even contemplating starting a family of my own, everything. Like my friends were out having fun and doing stuff. And I was just working Monday to Sunday, 9 till 12. Working. Just, what's the point? It's not a life. So, yes.
So your dad died in 2017 and you started Veganuary in 2018?
Yeah, exactly that. So I tried just going vegetarian first of all, because again, the doctors didn't say to him to go vegan. They said stop eating meat, eggs and dairy. So I actually went more on the kind of pescatarian route beforehand. No, I didn't. That's not true. So I went vegetarian first, but in England, everything vegetarian is just smothered in cheese. So I put a lot of weight on, and I actually felt really unhealthy from it. It wasn't working for me. So then I went pescatarian, which is where you don't eat meat, but you eat fish. Mm-hmm. And I remember sitting it was a kind of vegan moment that happened before I actually knew what veganism was, if that makes sense. This moment I'm about to tell you about is what made me kind of search it and find Veganuary almost. But I was sitting in a restaurant with my mum, and I was next to this beautiful fish tank, but it was really small, and there was really pretty fish in there just kind of swimming around in circles, and I felt so sad for them. So I just thought, you're the most beautiful thing, and you'll just spend your entire life swimming around and round and round and round. I just thought, oh, it's awful. And then my meal arrived, and I'd ordered cod, mash and greens. I was eating one of the creatures I felt sorry for, and it just hit me, and I just realised, I think that was the first moment where it was not a health thing, it was an animal-based thing, where I just realised, my God, the hypocrisy in this. And then I stumbled across Veganuary, got all their mailers that they send, found certain documentaries. I had the Cowspiracy moment, and then I had the Earthlings moment, and then I had the Dominion moment, and then something that English people might, I found, other people might not, but in the back of my head I'd always think, but this is all happening in other places. This doesn't happen over here. A Land of Hope and Glory is a vegan documentary based in English farmhouses and slaughterhouses by Ed Winters. He's known as Earthling Ed. He's quite a big, I'm sure he's a massive activist. Yeah. And yeah, that shone a light on, we do that over here really badly. England is just as bad as the rest of the world for animal welfare, if not worse in in some slaughterhouses. So yeah, like that was the full caboodle for me. And then once I'd seen, that was it. Just, no, I don't want to be a part of that. And I haven't been ever since. But, beforehand I was for 30 years, and that eats at me every day. That gets me every single day, that I just ate those things or bought those things without even thinking about the being that made it. And I hate myself for that. I really, really do. Bothers me endlessly.
But in a way, we all have to learn. So it's not something that you should hate yourself about. It's something that you should be like, okay, well, that's what I had learned till that point, and now I've learned something new.
Yeah, it's a good way to look at it. Very good way to look at it. And I think that's why I was so kind of inspired or motivated to kind of open other people's eyes. But again, I tried doing it in other ways, and it didn't work. I was labelled the preachy vegan, and I became the friend or family member that no one invited to dinner anymore, And by me trying to tell people about these things, it had the opposite effect. They just switched off, and it wasn't working. So I had to find a way that did work. And very pleased to say it is working. A lot of people have contacted me after reading book 1 of the trilogy, asking about, ways to cut down on their meat or dairy consumption, or ways to buy cruelty free and things like that. And they're all great starting points, because I find when you start doing one thing, the rest just comes. For me, it didn't all happen at once. It was very much a process, and I'm there now, but it didn't happen overnight. And if it even just one of the chapters from my book resonates with someone, and they think, oh my God, I buy this, and that's how that happens, that could just be, their catalyst for their own journey on whatever it's going to be, So I really hope that does happen. I just want to make a difference.
What positive changes did you see both mentally and physically after you changed to being vegan?
Oh, so quite a personal one. I'm going to share it with you. So I said that I'd never been in a position where I was even contemplating having a family. Well, I hadn't really spoken to my parents about it, but I actually suffered with quite a few miscarriages. Getting pregnant wasn't an issue for me and my partner, but me getting past 10 weeks was. I lost a lot, unfortunately. 6 or 7, I think it was in total, actually. Once you've actually had children, you forget everything. So I'd have been able to tell you before I had my children. I can't now. But yeah, within 3 months of going fully vegan, I used Dr. Greger's Daily Dozen app. It's a really handy kind of daily tick list of how much from each food group to eat for optimum health. It's brilliant. It's really, really good. And then, I fell pregnant with my firstborn, Orion, who is thudding around downstairs with his dinosaurs at the moment and driving his little brother crazy. So health-wise, I genuinely believe my ability to have children came from changing the things that I was putting in my body, because I'd lost a lot of potential little ones prior to going vegan, and then the next 2 times I got pregnant, I've had children. So yes, I genuinely believe I thank my children down to my lifestyle changes. And you just feel lighter, you've got more energy, you feel happier. Do you remember ever having, say, a McDonald's, or just a naughty meal, and afterwards you get that kind of come down feeling where you just feel, ugh. You never feel like that after eating anymore. Never. You always feel better after you've eaten something. It's a great feeling, I genuinely would recommend it to anyone. You do just feel better. But the only thing I would say is, again, when I first transitioned, I wasn't getting the right amount of each food from each food group. I didn't know to take a B12 supplement. So the first couple of weeks, I was feeling a little bit dizzy, not nauseous, but just a bit off. And it's because I wasn't getting the right amount of certain things. That was where Dr. Greger's Daily Dozen app came in for me. It's free. I don't work for this app. I'm not trying to promote it for any kind of a monetary gain, but it really helps me eat vegan healthily. I love the vegan meat replacements. They're brilliant, but I try to limit those to twice a week, because you can be vegan and still be unhealthy. if you have a vegan burger every other day for lunch and, a vegan steak or vegan bacon, or do you know what I mean? Like if you focus on the processed foods too much, your body will still not be as healthy as it could be, but kind of focusing on a whole foods, plant-based way of vegan life, you do feel fantastic. Like I love a chickpea curry or a 3-bean burrito or tofu stir fry or, pancakes made from oats with some blueberries on top and a little bit of maple syrup and stuff. Like, there's just so many healthy ways to eat that are fantastic. But before I started this call with you, I was making a chocolate cake for my little one, and instead of using an egg, I used a spoonful of chia seeds with a bit of water, so it's even making the indulgent foods not healthy, but, a little bit better than they were before. So, yeah, recommend it to anyone. It's fantastic, life-changing.
Now, how did you feel when your pregnancy lasted longer than 10 weeks? Were you paranoid? Were you nervous?
Oh, God, yeah. Yeah, so much. So I always know that I'm pregnant because I get morning sickness instantly from like week 3. It doesn't leave me. I now know until after the first trimester. So, yeah, and do you know what? I actually the last one that I lost, he would have been called Ridley. I was in Spain with my mum and my brother in Calpe because it was Dad's favourite place, and it was just a little family thing that we wanted to do after he passed. To I was wearing the ring and I was hoping that he was in the ring and that he was in Calpe with us. It was just a nice thing that we wanted to do, and unfortunately I lost Ridley there. So, and that one was really where I named that one. I don't know why. I just thought where Dad had passed, I just thought this one was going to last. I wasn't vegan yet, and it didn't. And yeah, it was really hard. So then when I was pregnant again, even though I was vegan, it was very much a case of, oh God, when am I going to lose this one? When am I going to lose this one? And I never did. So then after I got past kind of month 4 and I wasn't sick anymore and I had my little bump, I just kind of let go and enjoyed being pregnant, which was a lovely experience. I love being pregnant. I don't think I want more children, but I'd happily be pregnant again. It was some of the nicest times of my life. It was just, there's nothing better than looking down and seeing this big bumpy belly that you can, lean your cup of tea on. It's great.
So what was the feeling when you actually had the child?
Oh, right. Well, I'm not going to lie. Birth. Wow. There's just no way to explain that to anyone, even other mothers. Every mother's birthing experience will be different. And for some people, it's beautiful. For others, it's traumatic. It's a very, very, very out there experience. Unfortunately, my pregnancies were both fantastic, but with both my boys, they didn't want to come out. I went over with Orion. So I went two weeks over. And again, where I'm a bit of a medicine phobe, I don't like putting things in my body unless I absolutely have to. I didn't want to induce him. I didn't want to take any of the tablets they were recommending to help him come out, because I thought, how's putting some unknown, bit of medicine into my kid's bloodstream gonna, I didn't want to do that. So I left it as long as I could until they said, we're reaching the stage now where it might be unsafe. And as soon as they say that, you obviously you're going to do what's best for your children. So I bit the bullet, so to speak, and I went in and I let them. So they tried to break my waters first of all, which worked. But he didn't want to come out. He wasn't having any of it, and it did end up in an emergency C-section. Unfortunately, he just. I remember I'd been in labour for about 12 hours, and then I just saw the midwife's face drop, and then she pressed this button, and then the alarms went off, and the room was just full of people. And then I woke up a few hours later, and I remember looking at my partner. And he was holding this baby, because you don't know if it's a boy, you don't know if it's a girl. Like, you've effectively had your child and not been part of it. It was quite a hard experience, if I'm honest with you. And I remember saying, "Is that them? Are they okay?" And he was just like, "It's a boy." And it was just, oh yeah, it was. I haven't let go of him since. I think I was kissing him about 80 times a day. He's free now. So he's at the stage where he can push me away. He's like, "No, I don't want to be kissed anymore." And it was the same with Lucian. Yeah, Lucian didn't want to come out, and I think I was in labour for a bit longer with him. Won't go into all the grim details, but they tried a non-invasive way to bring labour along called a Cook's balloon, where they put a balloon inside you to hopefully open your cervix and then hopefully bring on labour that way. It was a non-medical treatment because they knew how I felt about medicine and all the rest of it. And it didn't work. He didn't want to come out. I had to break my waters. It still wouldn't come out, and then the same thing happened. So yeah, my pregnancies were great. My labours were not so great, but yeah, now I've got my little boys, and they're frigging fantastic. Exhausting. I haven't slept in 3 years, but fantastic. Yeah, very, very, very happy mama bear.
What's one thing that's exciting you right now in your life as far as your book project?
Ooh, so I've got a lot of things in the pipeline that are very exciting for me. So the kind of bookstore in England that's quite a big deal is called Waterstones. It's probably like the Barnes and Noble of America, and I've got my first Waterstones book signing on not next week, the week after. So I'm super excited about that. I'm doing my first set of school visits for World Book Day, which is on March the 3rd in England. I don't know if it's the same in the US. And I've got to give presentations on climate fiction and climate change to groups of over 150 students, which I'm petrified but excited about. And then the launch of Dominion. So book 2 is due out this summer as well, which I'm really, really, really excited and nervous about, because there's people that are invested in the Earthlings story now. They care about the characters. They care about Peridot, Ewan, Phoenix, Freya. Many of them don't care about Peridot's mum, Valertha. She is very much a Professor Snape of Earthlings, the only way I can explain her. You either love her or you hate her, sort of thing. But I want people to hopefully enjoy book 2 as much as people appear to have enjoyed book 1. So I'm more nervous about book 2 than I was book 1. So yeah, I really hope people like it. And it's quite a bit darker. I started off gently with Earthlings, and then there's some scenes in Dominion that it's a child-friendly book, so it's nothing. It's not like a scene from a horror movie, far from it. But there's bits that happen in Dominion that are like, oof. So yeah, nervous at people's reactions, but good nervous.
What is one habit, hack, or tip that helps you stay on track with your plant-based diet?
Dr. Gregor's Daily Dozen app. Absolute. Again, I am not associated with this in any way, shape, or form. He's just he's a brilliant. I think he's a physician or a doctor. I'm not sure, but he's got a free website. He's got a free app. He's got a load of books out as well. His books are the How Not to Die books. Don't be put off by the name. It's just genuinely research of certain foods and what they do for your body. Really worth reading. It's really, really interesting. You genuinely can use food as medicine. It's unreal what certain foods can do for our body. So like, if you have a sprain and something's inflamed, just have some watermelon. Brings it right down. Cold or flu, a cup of tea with lemon, ginger, and turmeric, and gargle some salt water. Your cold will be gone within 2 days. Like, it's amazing what food does for us. And reading his books and sticking to his app really, really helped me stay healthily vegan. Because everyone gets the urge to kind of have, again, don't know if you have it in the US, but a McPlant burger, or all the various vegan processed foods, which are ridiculously tasty and do taste exactly the same as meat in some cases. But it's I feel better when I eat the plant-based version. So that really helps me.
What is it about writing that makes you so passionate?
Well, it makes me happy. I love reading, and other than reading, spending time with my family or going for a walk, it's the one thing that just puts a smile on my face. I love writing. It genuinely makes me so happy. And I think it's the chance to kind of positively affect someone's time, When I was younger, funnily enough, I always wanted to be like a counsellor or a social worker. I actually went to go to university when I was 18, had all the right grades and all the rest of it. But I was told I didn't have enough life experience for the course. I was only 18, and I was sent away to get some life experience, which I did, and then unfortunately I never went back to it. But yeah, I care about people as much as I do animals, and I really hope my books help people. That inspires me to keep going, because as much as I want to save animals, I want to save people as well. And eating animals kills us. It does. It kills us. 110 million%. If my dad didn't eat what he ate, 'cause he wasn't a smoker, he wasn't a heavy drinker. If he didn't have a bacon sandwich every morning and then, his greasy pie for dinner and all the rest of it, there's a huge chance he wouldn't have got cancer. Huge. Eating animals harms us. It really, really does. Not as much that harms the animals. What they go through is a million times worse. But, it does harm us. So I hope my books help people, animals, and the environment. I really, really do.
Finally, can you give us one word to describe how you felt before you became vegan, and one word to describe how you feel now that you are vegan?
Oh, that's a hard question. Okay, so before vegan, I felt unfulfilled in life. I was unfulfilled. And now I am thriving. Absolutely thriving. I know anything that I want to do in life, I can do it. I know I can. The self-doubt is gone. I know I can make a difference, and I'm really going to try to.
Such a pleasure speaking with you. Thank you so much for taking the time.
Oh, it's been absolutely lovely chatting with you. Thank you so much for having me. Wasn't expecting those questions, but I really enjoyed answering them. It was a really personal chat, and I think that's what makes your podcast so great. You don't just ask like the typical genre-specific questions. You delve a bit deeper, and it's just nice having that kind of chat with someone sometimes. So yeah, thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. Now, what is the best way for people to follow you on Instagram, the web, and to purchase your book?
Oh, lovely. So my socials for everything, so Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, is Ray Star Books, and Ray is R-A-Y, Ray Star Books, or my website, which is raystarbooks.com, and you can buy my book pretty much from anywhere, I think. But another thing I just want to add quickly, my book is printed on recycled paper, everywhere possible. The only place that doesn't offer recycled paper printing, unfortunately, is Amazon. They don't offer a kind of sustainable printing option. So if you buy from anywhere other than Amazon, it will be an eco-friendly recycled paper print book. Amazon, it won't be. And I plant a tree for every book sold as well. So just try and do my little bit there as well.
That's so great. Thank you, Ray, for being on Plant Your Seed.
Thank you so much for having me, Fred. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Hope you are inspired by this story, and remember, it's never too late to plant your seed. Links to everything we talked about on the podcast can be found on Instagram at plant.yourseed in the show notes tab in the bio. If you enjoyed the show, remember to leave us a review, and until next time, thank you for listening.